I'm really happy to be here because I love Montreal. It's like Paris, but you bathe. And it's just so nice to be here. I can't get down the stairs.
You guys have a good dinner tonight?
Seriously, I cannot walk down the stairs. You go.
Can I help you here?
It's very deep.
Thank you. Not a problem.
And I worked in their coffee shop as a waitress to pay to go to all the comedy. And and you were very generous because I found out if you limp, Montrealians give you extra tips. Seriously, I cannot walk down the stairs. You go.
Can I help you here?
It's very deep. Thank you.
Now, as I promised, we'll talk now more about David Bowie and his influence. Let's bring in Jack Stephen. He is director of Fortune Music.
It's actually Fortress Music.
Fortress Music.
Yes.
Do beg your pardon,
never
Jack.
mind.
Fortress Music, and worked as in the music industry as an executive in the Bowie era, and also Bowie's fashion sense we're going to talk about as well. It's influenced the era. And Lizzie Zeta, fashion stylist, is with. Welcome to you both. Apologies again,
No
Jack.
problem.
I mean, but perhaps first sum up how you felt this morning when you heard this.
I
news.
was just saying earlier that I actually felt that part of me had died. I mean, I have to say that's how much an influence he is, I think, to me and to thousands and millions of people around the world. And strangely, I'm surprised. I sort of lived through John Lennon's death, Elvis's death, and sadly, this one's affected me more than any other. I mean, it's a very strange thing because I think with him, he was probably the first complete artist where he was involved in every single area of his career, whether it's photography, fashion, whether it was film, whether it was poetry, whether it was live work where he was very theatrical. I mean, his vocal influence, a lot of people don't know this, came from Anthony Newley, who of course was a musical artist. So I find it very, very sad today.
Just finally then, Jack, Black Star. I mean, do you see it how people are seeing it today, that this is his goodbye, that this was all pre-planned?
I think it is his goodbye, but I don't think he'll ever be forgotten.
At 15, she has it all.
Like when your head was cast.
Hollywood special effects makeup master Tony Gardner, who has done such films as Three Kings, There's Something About Mary, and Shallow Hal, and put Allie in a fat suit. Course of 3 hours, she was layered with latex, spray painted with makeup, and heavily padded.
Sure.
Oh my God.
As soon as I found out John C. Reilly was playing Hardy and Steve Coogan was playing Laurel, I couldn't actually think of anybody better, any pair that would be better than those two.
For the time we were shooting this film, this area right here was exposed and this area on my flats of my hands. That's it. The rest of my body was encased in prosthetics or a fat suit. It was like wearing a mask on your whole body. And that mask was so convincing that it made me believe, sort of from the outside in, that I could play the character.
This is one of the fat suits. It's made in 2 sections, so we've got trousers and a top, which pull on separately and zip together. And under here, we've got little weighted bags, lead shot, basically, because John wanted to feel some weight built into the suit, so it actually felt heavy to him.
It really affected the way he walked. It did make him move in a different way.
Good for you. Boy, I tell you, they changed that drunk driving shit, man. The attitude is just too harsh for me. Way too harsh. You remember 10 years ago? Anybody 10 years ago? You got pulled over, cop came up to your car. Son, you been drinking? Yeah. Oh, sorry to bother you.
If I'm in a cafeteria, because I like going to blue-collar places like Luby's, and I see old ladies in there that are scrimping and can't buy food, I don't like to make a big deal of it. I go up to the front and pay for their food, and then I start crying because 10 years ago, people were able to buy themselves food.
Boy, I tell you, they changed that drunk driving shit, man. The attitude is just too harsh for me. Way too harsh. You remember 10 years ago? Anybody 10 years ago? You got pulled over, cop came up to your car. Son, you been drinking? Yeah. Oh, sorry to bother you.
If I'm in a cafeteria, because I like going to blue-collar places like Luby's, and I see old ladies in there that are scrimping and can't buy food, I don't like to make a big deal of it. I go up to the front and pay for their food, and then I start crying because 10 years ago, people were able to buy themselves food.
Yeah, we're going to be showing you a close-up of that. That is Forest Lawn. Were you surprised, Dave, to hear from him when you were 7?
Oh, it's a very interesting story, Larry. It was kind of, the visit to his Encino house was very impromptu, and it was kept a secret by my mother. And I had always been kind of a admirer of his, not a fan per se, but I always loved his music. And my mother surprised me one day and brought me up to Neverland. And I entered an arcade, and there were all these Paul McCartney records all over this, The Girl Is Mine, and, you know, this and that. And I remember sitting down, and at the time, my favorite video games, my favorite video game was Pole Position. And I was playing Pole Position, and I felt a little tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and there was Michael.
Hold it right there.
And you know what, Larry? What? At that moment, we embraced.
More than we. I've never had my cheekbones done, never had my eyes done, never had all that, my lips done, and all this stuff. They just go too far. I mean, it's crazy. But this is something that happens like every day with other people. Are you pleased now with the way you? I'm never pleased with anything. I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, it's part of who I am. And.
Allie. At 15, she has it all.
Like when your head was cast.
Hollywood special effects makeup master Tony Gardner, who has done such films as Three Kings, There's Something About Mary, and Shallow Hal, and put Allie in a fat suit. Course of 3 hours, she was layered with latex, spray painted with makeup, and heavily padded.
Anything, Frank? Sure.
Oh my God.
As soon as I found out John C. Reilly was playing Hardy and Steve Coogan was playing Laurel, I couldn't actually think of anybody better, any pair that would be better than those two.
For the time we were shooting this film, this area right here was exposed, and this area on my flats of my hands. That's it. The rest of my body was encased in prosthetics or a fat suit. It was like wearing a mask on your whole body. And that mask was so convincing that it made me believe, sort of from the outside in, that I could play the character.
This is one of the fat suits. It's made in 2 sections, so we've got trousers and a top, which pull on separately and zip together. And under here we've got little weighted bags, lead shot basically, because John wanted to feel some weight built into the suit, so it actually felt heavy to him.
It really affected the way he walked. It did make him move in a different way.
What do we have here, Ken? Let's see. You always say an indictment, all right? Why don't you read it to me? You're up for election, aren't you? Mr. Bundy got it, didn't you? Mr. Bundy. You told me that you were going to get me. You said he was going to get me. Okay, you've got the indictment. It's all you're going to get. Let's read it. Let's go.
Theodore Robert Bundy, you are charged, indictment, 2 counts burglary, 2 counts murder in the first degree, 3 counts attempted murder in the first degree. Design or intent to effect the death of said Lisa Levy.
My chance to talk to the press.
Contrary to section 78204 Florida statute.
I'll plead not guilty right now.
And your grand jurors being present.
A judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of 2 co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida. Ed Rabel reports.
Before pronouncing the sentence, Judge Edward Cowart let Bundy make a statement.
I'm not asking for mercy, for I find it somewhat absurd to ask for mercy for something I did not do. So I will be tortured for and will suffer for it and receive the pain for that act. But I will not share the burden for the guilt.
In imposing sentence, Judge Cowart cited the savagery of the crimes and what he called the indifference of the defendant.
This court, independent of, but in agreement with, the advisory sentence rendered by the jury, does hereby impose the death penalty upon the defendant, Theodore Robert Bundy.
Then, in an unexpected move, perhaps an afterthought, Cowart stunned the courtroom with some parting words for Bundy.
Take care of yourself, young man.
Thank you.
I say that to you sincerely. Take care of yourself. It's a tragedy for this court to see it's such a total waste, I think, of humanity that I've experienced in this court. You're a bright young man. You made a good lawyer. I'd love to have you practice in front of me, but you went another way, partner.
Bundy says he'll appeal. Meanwhile, he has been ordered to the state prison to await setting of the date of his execution in the electric chair. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Miami.
This is the field where they staged the Kent State fake shootings. It's a little memorial for it. Little mockery. Yeah, I mean, if you really examine all the pictures, first of all the pictures are in black and white. It was the 1970s. I mean, we had color film, so everything's in black and white. Just an easier way to hide detail. They didn't have to fake blood colors and stuff like that. They could not worry about how it's going to look on film if it's all in black and white. And it's just a couple of the same photos over and over again. You could tell it's staged. It looks just like the ones they do today. This happened all during Vietnam War time. So yeah, I live pretty close to Kent State University, and a little bummed because there's actually a visitor center that I was hoping to get into, but they're closed. Yeah, the day before I'm here on May 3rd, so May 4th is the day of the staged event, and they're closed. Yeah, interesting. So, examine that a little later. So they have this little tour you can take. And here's one more, Law and Order and Dissent. It's just talking about bearing rifle student. They say that students didn't know the rifles were loaded. Right, because it was a staged event and everybody involved knew that there were no real bullets being used. So when 4 went down, not everybody's in on this, you know. I mean, there's some sort of drill going on or something like that. I mean, why is the National Guard there to begin with? They say they came in because of the protests, but that's a lot of National Guard just to show up out of nowhere because there's some students pissed off. You know, so it was all staged, just like they do today. But right here it says Company C moved towards, you know, the area. Company C, so you got C, which is the third letter in the alphabet, so you get your 33. So there's some symbolism. They always mark their territory and their hoaxes with things like that. So I'm always looking for stuff like that. That's a pretty good clue. There's where that one picture is from. Right here. That thing's even still there. One last thing here. Or like the Kent State staging site. Right on. I mean, look at this. The smiles on their face. Come on. All staged. All this staged by any means necessary. You know, I mean, it's fear. It's put fear into people who are going to see this on TV across the country. You know, across the corporation, actually. Fear of the military, etc., etc. Causes divide. You know, if we're divided, we're easier to control. So everything's about keeping us divided. Red versus blue. Red versus blue is everywhere in society. Look for that. It's everywhere. Yeah. Just fear. Here's one more little piece. It says immediately after the shootings, 300 people reassembled in protest at the Victory Bell, which is that. And then they even tell you they staged a sit-in on the slope. Students stage. Everything's staged. They tell us. Access May 4th walking tour documentary at may4th.kent.edu. Alright, I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, they fake this stuff. There's another stage. Hey guys, so I thought I'd talk just a couple minutes about the deception of blindness in, you know, performers. You got Stevie Wonder. This is kind of a joke, you know. Ray Charles, too, you know, same kind of joke, kind of. What I'm trying to get at is, you know, they're both smiling and laughing up at the sky. And just so happy, you know. I'm so happy, you know. Alright, so what I'm getting at is that these are characters. They're roles being played in this
ridiculous matrix that we're being presented with. All these images going on. But, Helen Keller, another, hoax on us. That somebody could be deaf and blind. You get into Stevie Wonder with no glasses. Here he is. You got the left eye. Celebrities covering the left eye. It's all that symbolism, so just kind of wanted to talk about that for a second. That what I'm throwing out there is this dude's not blind. It's part of the deception. Same with Ray Charles, and there's all these other famous people that are, blind. This guy even got his A Brave New World Arthur, blinded and all this. And as a child, he suffered through blindness for years, but eventually regained sight, some sight. So makes you question blindness. Maybe it's reversible. It's not necessarily a disease, but a frequency. Because people can sleep with their eyes open and not see. They wake up and that frequency changes. Sorry. But yeah, all these famous artists. Look at that. Look, he's closing his left eye. Here. Right? Left eye. Left eye. Left eye symbolism. It's because if the left eye is covered, the right side of the brain is being used, and the right side of the brain is the creativity part and the part that uses the subconscious and imagination. So these elite know that if you're covering, blinding the left eye, you're using the right side of the brain. That's also why they had a major campaign, about 200 years ago to get all the new children after the most recent mud flood to use their right hand to write spells to cancel out that logical left brain. That's just a little connecting dots with left, right, brain. Celebrities covering the left eye, and jokers like these coming out on the scene pretending to be blind. I mean, they're playing roles, both of these. Same thing. Same thing. Alright, dudes. What's up, guys? thought I'd talk a little bit about why the elite use actors to play multiple roles, and why they fake their deaths and assume new identities. I've made a few videos about this, so I'm gonna kind of chime in on it a little bit, and I'm gonna have a cigarette while I do it. They use Hollywood effects. It controls our perception of reality. Really, the only war being fought in this matrix we live in is our perception of things. Yeah, I've made a lot of videos about perception. So this is just kind of another like a segment that I'm touching on. Just showing you guys here in part one, kind of an example of how they are able to pull it off with Hollywood effects. And they'll use characters to fake their deaths and assume new identities. It's a money maker. It makes a ton of dough. It's also a form of black magic. A lot of our reality is presented to us. It's about controlling our perception of reality. It's black magic. You got the symbolism there. Buzz Aldrin, Ringo Starr. That's what I see. It sounds crazy, I know. But the level of deceit is insane. They want to keep the cast small. That's why all the the Hollywood elite, the actors, the most famous people that we know, politicians, all these names that are in the mainstream media and entertainment, they're popular for a reason. It's by design, because it's a small cast of people replaying different roles. It keeps the the odds of the secret of that magic trick being played on us at a minimum. So they just reuse the same people to play different roles. And you always hear about actors saying, "Oh, I want to be a musician talking, I wish I was an actor." It's because they are. Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Tommy Lee Jones. List goes on and on. So here's part 2. There's Marilyn Monroe holding up a flat earth map. Symbolism. So yeah, just keeping with that theme, guys, you know, the elite use actors to play multiple roles. You got George Bush playing Charles Manson. Not only do they look the same, they sound the same. And it's what these guys gotta do. It's like an initiation process within their class of knowledge, kind of above the people like me who are kind of trapped in their web of trying to stay afloat. Yeah, it's like a casino where the house always wins, and even when the house loses, the house still wins. You got Princess Diana, who is David Furnish. David Furnish is Elton John's partner, and Princess Diana and Elton John had a very close relationship, and David Furnish looks just like Princess Diana. And there's a transgender war going on. A lot of the elite also play transgender roles as well as multiple roles within their own gender. We got Richard Pryor, Steve Harvey. Very similar comedy, very similar features, and they're both very funny, kind of in the same way. And the math adds up. You got these goofy pictures. Alright, Rush Limbaugh, Jim Morrison. Sounds crazy. But when you start to look at both of them, the golden eye, Rush Limbaugh still in the limelight, Where'd he come from? Got that symbolism, that 666. There you go. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Tommy Lee Jones. Another kind of like example of like Jimi Hendrix and Morgan Freeman playing multiple roles. Keep the cast small. There you got Marilyn Monroe holding up the flat earth map. Again with the symbolism. The transgender agenda going on. It's not a new thing, it's been around for centuries. Mixing up the genders, sticking out that tongue. Reminds me of Miley Cyrus, that whole symbolism. Yeah, it's all staged. Coming up on part 3, I'm gonna kind of chill out and let you guys watch this part. So, in part 3 here, I kind of, brought back in, some of the, ways in which they are able to transform people into other people. Here's Joan Rivers. Faking her death and reappearing a couple months later.
First of all, I'm really happy to be here because I love Montreal. It's like Paris, but you bathe. And it's just so nice to be here. I can't get down the stairs.
You guys have a good dinner tonight?
Seriously, I cannot walk down the stairs. You go.
Can I help you here?
It's very deep.
Not a problem.
And I worked in their coffee shop as a waitress to pay to go to all the comedy. And and you were very generous because I found out if you limp, Montrealians give you extra tips. Oh, seriously, I cannot walk down the stairs. You go.
Can I help you here?
It's very deep.
Joan Rivers. Yeah, she faked her death. Remember, she's the one who also said that Michelle Obama was a man, right? So here's David Bowie, still alive as Jack Stephen. Jack Stephen was a record executive that David Bowie worked with.
Now, as I promised, you'll talk now more about David
blah, blah, blah. Here's an interview that Jack Stephen did a couple days
Fortress music.
Yeah.
Do beg your pardon, Jack.
after David Bowie, quote unquote, died.
We're going to talk about as well. It's influenced the era. And Lizzie Zeta, fashion stylist, is with. Welcome to you both. Apologies again, Jack.
Problem.
I mean, but perhaps first sum up how you felt this morning when you heard this.
I was just saying earlier that I actually felt that part of me had died. I mean,
Watch here.
That's how much an influence.
Look how they pixelate out his face, because that's David Bowie.
Strangely, I'm surprised. I sort of lived through John Lennon's death, Elvis's death, and sadly, this one's affected me more than any.
In prosthetics, a couple days after he faked his death, out there doing this interview, bragging about himself.
Fashion, whether it was film, whether it was poetry, whether it was live work where he was very theatrical. I mean, his vocal influence. A lot of people don't.
And they keep pixeling out his face. Nobody, no pixelation anywhere else.
Just finally, then, Jack.
And then listen to her. She says, "Has this all been planned?" Right here. Has this all been planned?
But I don't think he'll ever be forgotten.
That's what they do. And a couple more here. Kurt Cobain. Some rivers come on. Weezer. Nirvana and Weezer. Yeah, it's the same dude. They always fake their death. It's either like 23 or 33. It's always in the numbers. Then you got Prince. He faked his death too. And he's Tyka Nelson, which is his sister, who has been this kind of like anomaly, kind of weird character that really hasn't been there, but kind of has. It's always just been him playing her. Because they pre-planned these death hoaxes. They plan them years in advance. They know they're going to do this. They set it up years in advance. So they set up plants like this. It's like a long-term magic trick they're doing. It's all for gain. power, money. So yeah, dudes, I got a few more of these I'm gonna make, and I'll move on from this, but yeah, it's another level of deception that I wanted to touch on, and yeah, man.